Terry Haas in Mesa, Arizona, 1861 East Fountain. This railroad I started about 7 years ago, and each year I put a little bit more to it. And it's about 300 feet of track, and I have 4 trains running at all times. And most of the time everything works fine. Of course, you do have maintenance now and then. I started in railroading back when I was about 5 years old, when I got my first Lionel. And of course, right behind my house was where the trains used to run, so that always got me into trains completely. And the DT&I was a train that went right behind my house, which was owned by Henry Ford. And that was his railroad for around 20-some years. And it was really called the fastest freight in Ohio. And so that really got me started on trains. And of course, my dad and my mother had got me trains for Christmas. And I really collected Lionel over the years. And then I did get into some HO. And then when I was here in Arizona, the outdoors of everything got me into garden railroading about 10 years ago. And I've just been adding to it more each year. And it's taken a lot of time. It's taken me 5 years really to build this, where I really had it first down on the ground. And then to me, that just wasn't enough. It had to be put up in the air where you can get to it easier and the people can see it better. So I got it up in the air. I did have, doing a waterfall and everything took a lot of time. So it's really worked out nice. The people at Christmas time or in the spring just love to come by and see my trains. I'm also a manager of Linhart's Ace Hardware in Mesa, Arizona, which I've been connected with so many people there that a lot of them come in there to come see the trains. A lot of people have lived with the trains. Maybe they didn't get to buy a train and have it, but they really like being around trains as kids and as growing up. And so I've really made an effort at my store to talk to people, have the flyers there for our open houses. Of course, being in the Arizona Big Train Operators, that's really helped a lot. So I've just kind of kept things going, added a little bit here or there as the money supply come in. But I've really liked doing some of the circus stuff, which I have in the front. And of course, my wife, Adrian, has been right beside me the whole time. And that's why we call our railroad the A&T Express. So our national convention in 2008 will bring people here from all over the United States and even the world. So everybody wants to get ready and make something really nice for the people to see.
Hi, I'm Ed Dunshee.
I'm Carol Dunshee. Welcome to the Tranquility Railroad.
We started this railroad about 5 years ago. It came out of a kind of a strange situation. You've probably heard it 1,000 times, but we started with a small circle in the house. That grew to where we first started on the east side of the railroad. We've got about 200 square feet or 200 linear feet of track over there. on 2 levels, surrounds the gazebo over there, goes through 2 tunnels, over a waterfall, through a shed, and the shed actually becomes the storage for the railroad. About 2.5 years ago, we started on the east side, adding a Hellgate Bridge, a replica of the Hellgate Bridge that's currently in New York City, 18 feet long, that was built by Eagle Wings Ironcraft Dan Hogue. He made this for us about 2 years ago. It's become the focal point now of our railroad on this east side. This east side now is about 2.5 years old. Between the east and the west side, we've got about 600 feet of track. We run basically the MTH trains, Mike's Train House, on the west side, and all LGB on the east side, made up of 3 or 4 tunnels. We have a waterfall. We've got several different areas that we like. The road is more fantasy than reality. For example, we saw at the Queen Mary show a couple years ago a fairy castle which Carol fell in love with, and we wound up incorporating that in our railroad. So we probably have the only railroad in Arizona that has fairy garden as part of the railroad. Carol can tell you more about that because she's really into the gardening side of the railroad. So Carol, how about?
One of our friends on the Queen Mary said, ferries have nothing to do with railroads, and they do. As you can see, we have 3 fairy castles, we have ferries. Our grandkids love the ferries. They want to come over and move them around because they never like where I put them. And the whimsical part of the whole thing makes the grandkids want to come back. We also have superheroes, if you look carefully. There's a Spider-Man on the gondola car, and there's a bunch of them here and there around that the grandson likes, and he's always, when this show is done, can I have my superheroes back? Can I play with them? Can I move them? So it's got to, for us, be a whimsical thing that meets our needs and our grandkids' needs, so they want to keep coming back and playing with it.
We do have the house open twice a year, at Christmas and in April. The Christmas open house is now about 4 years old, I believe. This past Christmas, over 2 weekends and the weekend between, we had approximately 2,900 people here, where the railroad displayed at night with the Christmas lights and music and everything else, and it's a lot of fun for us to do it. The April show is the first week in April, and it's during the daytime, and the railroad shows differently in the daytime than it does at night, especially in the springtime when we've got the flowers blooming and everything. So we really enjoy doing it. It's fun seeing the reaction of the people that come, and I always joke that we always have kids that are carried out of here kicking and screaming, and some of those kids that we have carried out are actually 80 years old. So it is fun for all. We have people that come and spend hours here during the open houses, and we enjoy it. When anybody asks me and starts talking about how much money we have tied up in it, you know, I just say, well, we just do it for the grandkids, and which is not exactly
Tell
true.
your Harley thing.
Oh, we had a neighbor too that a lot of people ask when we started talking about the amount of money we have in the railroad, which I couldn't even tell you how much it is. It's just a labor of love. We love it and we enjoy it, but we have neighbors in the area here that have Harley Davidsons that they have $30,000 involved in a motorcycle, and I have yet to fall off one of these trains. So we do enjoy it, and it's a fun hobby for all of us. We did most of the construction ourselves. The club has come over and they've helped us. We now have 80 members in the club, but several of them have come over at different times to help us build it. I've built the wood trestles myself in my garage shop. You know, there's probably 15 or 20 tons of gravel in here and about the same in rock. And it's been a lot of hard work. All that's been wheeled in here by a wheelbarrow and placed in place by hand, and the rock has been mortared in place. And the displays change all the time. They say that one of these railroads is never completed, and that's true because you're constantly changing things. We leave it set up year-round. We run trains year-round, so it's really a fun hobby to get involved in, and we enjoy it.
We also had everybody would come and say, Ed, when are you going to put trains behind the pool? I said, never. You are not putting trains behind the pool. And you can see where that went.
Decided he couldn't do it anymore. He gave me his trains, and it just grew from there. And I've enjoyed it as a hobby, and also
Hi, my name is Dennis Sarine. My railroad is the Palo Verde and Southwestern, located here in Mesa, Arizona, the Valley of the Sun. We started this railroad in December of 2003. We had a blank canvas to start with, just level dirt. From that point, we started doing all the block work. All the track is laid on block that's poured solid with concrete. On top of that, we laid boards to laser level the roadbed. We poured the concrete. On top of the concrete, we have a foam that was special made for us from a gentleman in Tennessee. And it's about a ½ inch thick, and it's a little bit bigger than the track, so it works out perfect when we go to ballast it. And then from that point, we're using USA track. It is clamped together using Hillman clamps. We took out all the screws in the bottom of the track that holds the track to the ties so the track moves with the weather. And we use Hillman's expanded track every 20 feet. We've had no problem with the track whatsoever. It's perfect. In the summertime it expands, in the wintertime it contracts, and it's held together very tightly. It's a nice roadbed. At this point we have about 2,700 lineal feet of main line and another 800 feet of sidings and yard. We're going to expand that up to about 4,000 lineal feet of track in the near future, and another 500 feet of yard. We'll have another section over there. There'll be a yard again. We're going to try to do a mix of realistic landscaping and the flowers and shrub to kind of blend in the model railroading in with the landscape aspect. That's our ultimate goal, to try to go that way. We're using rocks that are made out of a mold, and we take that rock and we cut it up into pieces. We then form out our mountains and valleys and hills, and we color it and stain it, and it looks pretty realistic from that point. We have around 1 mile of PVC conduit underneath the layout, and we have around 6 miles of wire to run this layout. We are firing up the track every 20 feet. We take a main bus line number 10 wire to the block, and we take number 12 wire off every 20 feet inside that particular block. We have on the main line, we have 27 blocks at this time. When we add the other footage to the railroad, we'll have a total of 35 blocks. I hope to use DCC down the road. It's pretty complex when you have 180 locomotives to try to make them all go DCC, but we're going to try to see what happens. Right now we're strictly running block. The railroad is broken up into basically 3 phases. We have the main line, then we also have a mining area, and then we also have a logging area. The logging area is a special area up on top of the mountains by the forest we have. It will harvest the lumber, bring it down to the lake. At the lake we're going to have a logging operation with a chute and the whole ball of wax, and that will be broken up and put on the log cars and then taken off into a destination on the railroad. We have a lake. It will be fed by 3 different streams that come off that particular situation. The lake is basically built like a swimming pool. It'll be gunite, plastered. You'll have a filter. You'll have aerators and movement so we can keep the water to a temperature and to a alkaline level that will keep it nice and clean. Before we started construction in 2003, I spent quite a bit of time on AutoCAD designing up the particular layout the way we wanted it. It's a combination of 3 or 4 layouts that I've seen other places in the United States that would fit this particular situation. To start out the layout, we got ourselves 2 huge plywood radiuses that we laid down on the ground and used spray paint to mark out where the track was going to go. We then used strings and marking paint for the straights, and everything was laid out with paint on the ground before we started the actual block construction of this project. We hope to be finished well before the 2008 convention. We have about 3/4 of the landscaping yet to do. We have our turntable here on site, but we haven't placed it yet. We have a main terminal we're doing. We have roundhouses we're doing. We have a utility section and a oil and pipeline section as some of the main features of this particular layout, as well as a little town scene we'll be doing off to the side.
My name is Jerry Pfeiffer, and I call my railroad the Phoenix East Valley Railroad. Golly, I've been involved in garden trains for probably, I'm going to say, going on 15 years. And I got involved with it because I bought my dad a LGB train for Christmas to put around his Christmas tree, and it just kind of grew from there. So when my dad decided he couldn't do it anymore, he gave me his trains, and it just grew from there. And I've enjoyed it as a hobby, and also I met a lot of good people through the hobby or through interest in not only the garden trains, but in the real trains. It's an elevated type train. When I moved here from California, Northern California, and always in the past, all of my layouts were based on the ground. And when I moved here, because of the heat that we have here in the Phoenix area, I didn't want to have the track, moving and having to needing adjust it all the time. And so I decided to build it on an elevated platform. My platform is all steel, and the track is literally, I hook it to the platform, and so I never have any movement. The entire thing moves, if you will, with the heat. I also like live steam, and so it's a lot easier to not lay down on the ground. And by elevating everything from, well, here elevation, it runs anywhere from 1 foot to 3 feet in my yard, but it's just a lot easier, especially if you're using live steam and or derailments, things of that nature. It's a lot easier for me to work on it. I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that what you're seeing in my layout at this point is about, as I envision it, is about 30% finished. And ABTO is a local club that I belong to, and we are one of the sponsors, along with the Tucson Club, for the 2008 convention. And in any event, we're hoping that you know, a lot of the layouts you'll see here from this trip. But in 2008, I know a lot of friends in the club are building railroads right now, and probably half of them are in the same condition the mine is. And you know, 6 months from now to 9 months from now, it's going to you know, it'll be finished. And but I enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm hoping that we do have open houses with ABTO as well as Dan's Eagle Wings. And we have one every year. Dan has one at this time. Our club has a large open house at Christmas time. And so what you're seeing here today is about I'm going to say 6 months of work, because a lot of it was in the landscaping in the house. But now I'm focusing more on the train. And I think by Christmas time, it'll look completely different than what it is. The track is down, but the buildings will be in place. And I actually have 4 separate sections where there'll be buildings, an industrial side, and then an old ghost town, as well as a more modern city.